Hey guys, Erin here with Southern Girl Exotics. Welcome back to my channel. So lately I have gotten a lot of DMs about my enclosures. Y'all have even been commenting a lot on the videos about my enclosures. What are those enclosures behind you? What do you prefer to use for this species or this species? Do you like glass? Is it safe to use tubs? Are they efficient sources for our animals? And so I think those are super important questions. And just because I am such an advocate of the diversity that we are able to use and practice for keeping the exact same species, I want to have this information out there that just shows the way I do it, and maybe that will help somebody along the way. I keep a lot of different styles of enclosures. I've got converted glass, I've got exoteras and reptizoos, manufactured reptile glass, I've got PVCs, I've got sterilite tubs, shoe boxes. Did I already say melamine? Anyways, I've got a lot of different materials I use for setups, and the reason I have so many different kinds is because different ones are more efficient for what I need for specific animals, ages of animals, sizes of animals. So for me, they all are very, very adequate and efficient if I am using the right species, the right material for the current species I'm working with or the current environment that I need to create. I think a lot of people get afraid of tubs, or to show that a lot of times they are relying on plastic tubs, because I think, one, it makes you look cheap, which I don't care. I like to reptile keep smarter, not harder, and reptile keeping is already really expensive. So if I can efficiently cut corners that is still giving my animals wonderful setups and adequate setups, I'm absolutely going to do that. I've even seen people talk about how tubs can be harmful. I have yet to see anything that can harm my reptiles by using tubs or anything else. So again, we're going to talk about all that in this video. I'm going to show you the different enclosures I use. I'm going to show you a little bit of what I have in those enclosures and how they're set up. And then I want to talk about their efficiency for not only the animal, but for me as a reptile keeper. And then just some pros and cons, like cost efficiency and visually, aesthetically pleasing, those kind of things that are absolutely important. So yeah, we're going to touch on all that. I'm going to show you guys a few of the enclosures. Hopefully this will be a little bit educational and help any of you out if you were in the process of upgrading, or maybe what you're working with is just making things a little more difficult for you. You're having to mist more, you're having to figure out all these little tweaks to make the environment work for you. Maybe one of these other materials will do better for you. So yeah, we're going to talk about all that. I hope you guys enjoy the video. If you are new here, please subscribe, and I'll see y'all in a minute. Let's start with plastic first. I use plastic for several different species, several different size species, and I think it is one of the most effective options for keeping reptiles. Now, these guys get a real bad rap, and part of the reason people stay away from tubs or don't even like to admit that they use them is that a lot of times people are cutting cost when they use tubs, and so people a lot of times are putting too big of an animal in too small of a tub. But that is not always the case, and that's not how to make these the most efficient and best options for your animals. That has nothing to do with the material. It has nothing to do with using plastic or tubs. That has to do with just being a shit keeper. So we need to get away from that stereotype where we assume that tubs are affiliated with cheap or bottom barrel keepers, because that's just not the case. They are so effective in so many areas. The best thing about getting a tub is it's not manufactured for a reptile. That means we can use our own creativity and our own ingenuity and make it efficient housing for our animals. Now, tubs get big, and with the bigger tubs, You can absolutely do like your breeding groups in them, or some people keep lychees in like the 60 quarts, which are the equivalent of an 18 by 18 by 24. So tubs are absolutely an amazing option. You can also add heat to these. Now we do, again, have to get creative with something that has a lid on it, especially if you have an animal that can escape if the lid is off of it. So you may have to cut a hole and add some screen or something of that nature. But adding heat is absolutely an option. I have done heating pads on tubs for years, especially when I first started in African fat tails and I had to have a heat source. Heat pads on a thermostat do just fine. These tubs, especially if you get the quality ones like Sterilite and Hefty brands, the thickness is perfect and does just fine with adding a heat source. It's not going to melt. It's not going to put off any toxic fumes. So I use these for a ton of species. I've got the bigger ones, the 40 quarts for my African fat tails. These 15 quarts are great for my anywhere from like 10 to 20 gram crested geckos, gargoyle geckos, lychees. And then of course the shoe boxes. I love these. They are perfectly adequate and great options for hatchling racks. Anything that is about 15 grams or smaller will do great in these. And again, you can kind of adjust the ventilation to however you need it to be. So there are a ton of perks to using plastic. Not to mention, smarter keeping is always on my list of things that I hope to achieve when I am picking out enclosures or racks. And tubs and plastic is so easy to clean. It's not a porous material, so typically you get it a little wet, spray it down. Within a couple minutes you can go back and easily wipe off any food or shit that has been stuck there from your animal. I love that. I also love that I don't have to go behind and wipe it down with another type of solution to get water spots or streaks off. I literally can wipe it down with soap and water or just water, and it looks brand new. And it's cost effective. I bought 12 of these for $40. I can't even buy one glass enclosure for $40 or one PVC enclosure for $40, and especially not a hatchling rack for $40. So to get 12 of these for $40, it's a steal. So there are so many great things about using tubs. I really wish that we could get away from that stigma that tub equals poor reptile keeping, because it's absolutely the opposite. Not to mention, it just makes more sense that if we can use a material that is going to take more work off of us, why not? Hands down, as far as I'm concerned, plastic and tubs are one of the best options out there. As long as we are being responsible keepers and keeping animals that are appropriate size for the appropriate size tub, there is not much else that I can say negative about tubs. Now, what I will say, and it's very superficial, is I find them the least aesthetically pleasing option out there. I have yet to see a bunch of stacked bins, even if they're nicely decorated with animals in them, that I find appealing in a reptile room. But I think part of that makes them not so aesthetically pleasing is also what a lot of people like about them, because I know a lot of people like the opaque sides because it makes them feel like their animal feels more secure. It's less exposed to the elements. That may be the case, but I particularly just, on my end, don't think they're a very attractive option. But that is a pretty superficial and stupid reason not to use something that is effective in every other area when it comes to keeping your animal. All right, guys, let's jump over to glass. I have a love-hate relationship with glass, as in I love glass enclosures for so many reasons. I think they are aesthetically the best option for enclosure. If you're doing bioactive, if you're doing faux bioactive, if you're just doing something basic, glass is just a stunning, stunning option. You can see everything from all sides. It just gives this really beautiful, naturalistic look. So I love glass aesthetically for enclosures. But I also hate a lot of issues that come with glass. For starters, it is super heavy. If I have to move these enclosures, it is break a sweat. Most of my bigger ones I have to have help with. When I used to have 40 gallons and 55-gallon tanks, no way I could move those by myself. It can be incredibly heavy. Also, it's glass, so it's very easy to break if something falls. You can nick the sides. I've had doors fall off. The pins come out of doors. The door falls down and then it shatters. I have had a lot of different issues with glass. Not to mention keeping it clean, because it is glass and you can see it on all sides. Every little speck shows, whether we're talking about poop or food or water spots or streaks from cleaning the glass. It shows everything. So there are a ton of things that come along with having glass enclosures that make reptile keeping on my part a little more difficult, or at least a little bit more maintenance needing. You also have conversion kits that are now made for glass enclosures. I love these conversions. These all come from I Heart Gecko, and you just add a little silicone and it sticks right on. They have both the terrestrial kind as well as the arboreal conversion kits. I really, really love them. They're acrylic. If you don't know what I'm talking about, these are acrylic front doors that go on just regular aquariums. And that can make it pretty cost effective too. Here locally, one of our pet stores runs a sale every now and then where it's $1 a gallon. So when they do that, especially before I moved into a lot of PVC, I would buy up as many tanks as I could get, because then I only had to buy the conversion kit, which was anywhere from $30 to $40, depending if I was doing a 10-gallon or a 20-gallon. So it's still very cost effective, considering if you're buying an Exoterra, ReptiZoo, any of those brands, manufactured for reptiles. 20-gallon or 18 by 18 by 24 is going to run you about $200 and up. So you can definitely save bucks by doing the conversions. Now, for my 10-gallon conversions, this is a lot of grow outs. So things that are anywhere from about 20 to 30, sometimes maybe 35 grams. And then they go into 20 gallons, which I have down here. And you can keep adults in the 20-gallon conversions. And then naturally, I love glass tanks that have been manufactured for reptiles, like Exoterras and ReptiZoos. My favorites are my 18 by 18 by 30s that I got from Wayfair. They have perfect height. They've got good space for me to do my trios in, my gargoyle geckos or my crested geckos. And then 18 by 18 by 24s. I think that's a wonderful size space if you want to do like a single lychee, if you want to do a couple crested geckos, a couple gargs in it. I've even had trios in 18 by 18 by 24s, and they do magnificent. It's plenty of room, plenty of space. Now, when it comes to efficiency or effectiveness, functionality of glass enclosures, to me, glass absorbs any temperature in the room. Glass enclosures are also the only enclosures I use that require me to change regularly wattage on my light bulbs. So anything that's in a glass enclosure that has heat, typically in the winter, I'm using a higher wattage bulb. Typically in the summer, I'm using a lower wattage bulb. So I really have to pay attention and adjust the wattages according to what's going on in the reptile room, etc. Also with humidity, because again, a lot of these enclosures are manufactured already when we buy them for reptiles. A lot of them come with a solid screen top. The entire top is screen. Well, unfortunately, that's a ton of ventilation. So if you have humid species, tropical species in these enclosures, you're going to have to find, again, ways to tweak it, or you're going to have to put in the extra work of misting 2 and 3 times a day, depending on the humidity in your area already. So when it comes to functionality, how cost effective, how efficient this material is, glass is my least favorite, but it is, again, I can't stress it enough, my favorite visually. I just think it is so beautiful when you have nice clean glass, especially bioactives in glass. You can see all the little droplets on the leaves, and I personally think it's important for our animals to be able to see the environment around them. I know a lot of people will argue that their animal gets stressed when it sees other animals or it sees people walking by, and they like to black out their sides and hide them, but that's just not natural. I think it's even enriching somewhat for your animal to be able to experience things going on around it besides just sitting in a blacked out enclosure all day with no stimulation, no enrichment. So to each its own on that, but for me, I also think that is a plus for our animals. All right, guys, I was going to talk about the melamine enclosures, but I think I'm going to leave that out. I will just briefly say that I built these. They are made out of particle board melamine. It's got that coating on it, which protects it from moisture and other things. However, over time, that does chip and moisture does get in there. I've had these things for about 6 years. They've held up good. I only use them now occasionally when I need some bigger enclosures for breeding pairs or trios. But I have some Gecko Junkie enclosures in there right now that I'm waiting to replace here. So hopefully this weekend these will get out of here. Great option, cost effective if you want to just spend a few, well, it's not a few bucks. It cost me about $500 to do all 5 rows, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4. It cost me about $500 with plexiglass, all the little trinkets to make the doors, and then I had to buy some paint, power tools, things like that I didn't have on hand, so that was probably a little bit more. Nonetheless, I was very pleased with these, but they are not going to be effective for any type of tropical species. And since that's what I built them for and they have lived out their purpose, and I know they're not effective, then it's time to get rid of them now that I am moving over into other more efficient enclosures. Anyways, melamine is a great option if you want to save a few bucks, build your own enclosure, especially if you're going to do it for an arid species that just needs heat. Ventilation, again, you build it however much ventilation you need. Plexiglass doors, you can make those however you want to do it. So anytime building your own. But as far as the material, it's held up for me over years, but I cannot keep the humidity up the way it needs to be on a regular basis for a tropical species. So no go on tropical. Excellent option for any type of arid species, desert dwelling species. And like I said, if you take good care of it, it'll last for years. All right, guys, now moving into PVC enclosures. I love PVC. I 1000% can understand now why so many people have switched over to PVC. It has changed my life. These are a lot of what I get compliments on in my videos. You guys like these particular enclosures that are behind me. These are actually a really fun size too. They're 18 by 18 by 12s, which is rare. I don't see that available. And what I love about that is that my animals are still getting the depth space, but it's pushing this way instead of that way. So it's not taking up as much wall space, but they're still getting the same amount, and it's taking more of space this way, which is perfect. That means I have more room to set up more enclosures without limiting the amount of floor space my animals have as far as width and depth. So I love that about these enclosures. Now they did have a little bit longer turnover time because naturally they're a rarer size and it's not something that is readily available or readily ordered, but I was okay with that because I really wanted to try this out and it's worked perfectly. Now I use these for mostly single adult animals. My single females after breeding season will go in here and fatten back up and be by themselves and relax, whether that's Gargs or crested geckos. I could probably do a pair of cresties in here just for like breeding for a couple weeks and then pull them apart. I think there is enough room in there for that, but I would not house 2 animals in this size, buy them long term. I do have several different sizes of PVC. I've got the 18 by 18 by 24s. I've got the 4 by 2 by 2s. I got the 18 by 18 by 12s. So I have all different types of sizes and all different types of species that are in my PVCs, and it works efficiently for all of them. I've got my bearded dragons in PVC. I've got my blue tongue stink in PVC. One's tropical, the other 2 are arid. Perfect. Holds temperature perfectly, holds humidity perfectly. Now again, PVC is going to be manufactured for reptiles before you get it. Some will actually build for you. You're going to spend a lot more money on something that is custom built for you, but the majority of them are going to already have ventilation that is already cut into them, whether it's in the back and the front and both. Now, they aren't very cost effective. PVC, you're going to pay for the quality and the convenience of it. PVC, these quads right here, these ran me, I think, $400. My 18 by 18 by 24 trios, those ran me $450, and then my 4 by 2 by 2s for my bearded dragons and my skink ran me $475, I think. So you're gonna pay for the quality, but they're super light too. I love how easy it is to rearrange my PVC if I need to rearrange. And if you're like me and most other reptile keepers where your collection is normally growing instead of shrinking, then you constantly are trying to rearrange and optimize the space in your room. Hands down though, PVC is probably the best option if we're going to talk about efficiency, both for the animals as well as for keeper. There's nothing I can say bad about PVC. Easy to clean, holds temps, holds humidity. Great for blacking out and making your animal feel secure. Also beautiful, makes beautiful enclosures once they're set up. It doesn't matter if you are doing a faux bioactive, doesn't matter what species you're putting in it. If you're doing a desert type thing or if you're going to do like a tropical type setup, everything looks good in PVC in my opinion. And again, easy to clean. You can't beat that. So there is not much besides how expensive it can be. And most people will really work with you on that as well. Will I give you an invoice you can pay down? So other than that, there is nothing I can say negative about PVC. I will continue to use it. I will continue to upgrade to it. And I will hopefully within the next 2 or 3 years be mostly PVC enclosures. I would love to have one that was like a little more open on the side, like maybe plexiglass on the sides, at least of the quads or something. So it looked a little more open and realistic the way I like it. But if not, it's perfectly fine with the way they are. Like I said, I love everything about PVC. They're a great option for you and a great option for your animals, no matter what species you're keeping. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this answered the questions that I've been getting. I sometimes get on these tangents of information spewing when I'm making these videos, so I have to edit a ton out so that they're not exceptionally long and y'all get bored watching them. But I think for the most part, I've touched on some pretty important factors for me anyways that are really important when I'm choosing what style of enclosure I'm going to use for what species, or which one just all around I eventually want to upgrade to that is going to be universally great for any species I have or any species I bring into my home. Definitely drop down in the comments and let me know your experiences with the different materials. Not only is it great to have my information out there in this video, but I would love for the comments to have some of y'all's experiences with using some different materials for different species as well. I am such an advocate for how diverse we are able to keep these animals and it all be right. We can do it tons of different ways and be efficient and right in how we are caring and keeping these animals. So, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, definitely give it a thumbs up. If you are new here, please subscribe. Also, don't forget, over on Instagram, you've got 3 weeks left on my giveaway. So 3 winners will get picked. So if you're not following me on Instagram, make sure you head over there. It's pinned to my page, and it gives you all the information of what you need to do to enter. Have an amazing week, and I'll see y'all next week.